From the earlier demo, we set up this graphical user interface. So if you're not this far, if you haven't built your graphical user interface or recreated this one, go back and go through that demo first. So now we have a GUI, and we want something interesting to happen with our GUI, and that's where events come in. Now, as we said, there's a lot of different types of events. The main one we care about is when somebody comes and presses our submit button. So the way we want to handle this is we want to basically add an action listener to this submit button. Now, if you look over in the properties here, you can see the action right now is none. There's no action associated with that. We can actually create actions and assign them. You can have the same button or menu item or whatever do the same action. But in our case, we're just going to double click this button. And when we double click the button, you can see I went from here and it went over back to the source, and now there is this grayed text over here, button 1 action performed. This is a good place and reason to say, hey, maybe we want to custom name our buttons. We didn't do that last time because we didn't need to do that. But just from an aesthetic standpoint, not from a functional standpoint, we might want to change the variable name to be the submit button. For instance, oops, if I can spell. So the submit button. So when I hit OK on the submit button here, you can see it changed the name of the button to the submit button. If I go to my source code, it changed the name down here to my J button is now submit button. But more importantly, it now is telling me my submit button actually performed. So this is saying this is the action that I do when somebody clicks the submit button. Now the action is anything you want that action to be. So I encourage you, if you're a new coder in particular, even for those of us who have a little bit more experience, when you're dealing with something new, work incrementally, work small, do tiny things. So at this point, I've double-clicked something. I haven't even actually written any code. Let me just run it and make sure it still works. Make sure I didn't break anything. So at this point, it's churning out. It's thinking about it. Yes, indeed, it popped something up here. I have my first name, my last name. I can hit the submit button. Nothing happens, but I haven't coded anything to happen yet. So that's okay. So again, at any point, I can double-click this. It takes me back to the code for the submit button. Let's make something happen here. Let's start really simple. System.out.println, I pressed a button. All right, after I have proper code in there, make sure the semicolon's at the end. So I just put a line here that's going to write out to standard out. Let's run it and see what happens. I hit the run button. There's my GUI again. I put text inside of here, text inside of here. Hit the submit button. Look down below. I pressed a button. All right, high five. Good things happened, right? That's not super useful because that doesn't show up for the user unless they're running NetBeans. They probably wouldn't be in a full application. So we can do other things a bit more interesting. So instead of I press the submit button, I can do a J option pane. Hopefully you've seen this before in previous classes. But the J option pane is a swing class that gives us some nice tools such as a show message dialog. So we used show message dialog from the command line in your initial Java class. This is something you probably have seen before. Here we're going to use it where we're just going to put a message out there, and the parent component, we're going to now use the word this. Now, if you don't remember, the word this is an object-oriented concept. It's the object I currently am. Let's remember, in a class, we don't execute classes, we execute objects. If I say do homework, I don't grade homework abstractly. I grade your homework. You as the student listening to this, you turn in something. I'm looking at your work, whatever you coded, whatever you wrote. And when I give a grade, I give the grade to you, not just abstractly. Same concept here. I'm referring to the object that just called it. It's not super important in this case because we're only one GUI, but then I can take the same message here and copy and paste that over here, and instead of printing it out to the print line down here, instead I'm going to hit the run button, and the J option pane show message dialog is going to now pop up when I hit the submit button over the top of this window. You can see it's centered in this window. I pressed a button. That's what this does, is it refers it to the window that just caused that thing to happen. Now if I can move this out of the way, but notice I cannot go back to this dialog anymore, the dialog underneath there. I can't go type first name, last name. Because I referred to this, I've now blocked out this dialog until I acknowledge that message that just popped up. So a little bit of some advanced coding on J option pane. Now, if you didn't notice what I was doing before, I want to point out, and this is all covered in other chats, but you may or may not have seen this before. When I typed J option pane before, I type J op and I hit Control Space. That's what popped up this choice inside of here to finish J option pane. Then I hit Enter to complete that. And I hit dot show Control Space. I can keep typing here, show message dialog. It could keep popping there until it pops up. Hit Enter again, this all pops up and I can go through the work there. So in case you missed it, that's what was happening there. I want to talk about one thing at a time. But that's a little trick. Again, if you're not sure about all these tricks, go to my YouTube channel and check out some of those NetBeans guidance videos, and it'll show you some of these tricks if you've never seen this type of stuff before. All right, so now we have an event, and we're responding to the event in an interesting way, and we need to do more with the event. So let's just say I want to acknowledge the person that came up here. Well, let me create a variable real quick, a string, which is your name. And the string I want to get from, let's say the first name, we'll grab your first name here, from this text field you typed in, your first name input. All right, so I can say first, Control Space, name input, dot, you can see then it pops up, and if it doesn't do it automatically, you can hit Control Space, in this case it did it automatically, I can go get something such as the text that's inside of there. So the name that's typed in is the name that was typed in there, and I can put that name here plus name here. So what I'm doing is I'm going to this text box, first name, I'm grabbing the text that is typed in by the user, I'm storing that in a variable, and I'm displaying that variable when I say I pressed a button. Okay, so let me run this one more time. Oops, I still have it running in the background here. Let me shut this one down first, run it one more time, and then as I bring it back over, I can put my name inside of here, Tony, and hit submit, and I pressed a button, Tony. I can clear this. I can say Tony, submit. I submit the button. You see, it's grabbing exactly the text that I typed inside of here. If I type in nothing right here, I typed the button. I pressed a button, and then it's blank because it's doing exactly what's in this box. It doesn't matter if what's in this box is legal or not. This might not be an acceptable name, but it's the text that's in there. That's where validation comes in. We're going to talk about that in another demo here. I just want to point out the fact that what the code does is literally exactly what we ask for. So now, as I have this text going on, I can grab that text exactly and go from there. One other thing I want to show you real quick, if we go back to the design. Let's say I want to put another button on here. And here the other button, I'm going to hit F2 here and change the name to quit. I'm going to come back to my button, right click, change the variable name to be the quit button. Just to be able to distinguish them in my code, I can see more clearly. Now I'm going to double click the quit button, and I get a second action here. This is the default behavior of NetBeans. So when I double click it, it's going to create a new action specifically to that button. This action it creates actually has a little bit of workaround. This is not the way Java by default has these things work. What NetBeans does is it writes some code that redirects the actual action to this quit button action performer. And you can actually see that code up here. Add action listener. When the action gets performed, it calls the quit button action performed. Normally I have to create a separate object like this. This is called an anonymous inner class. We don't have to do that for now. You only have to worry about that if you want to code GUIs by hand. So what we need to worry about here instead is I have my quit button, which is a second action performed, which you can see now separates out what one button does versus the other button. So if I want to quit, there's a number of ways I can do that. The very simplest way to quit is system.exit. And then an error code or a success code. 0 is normally the success code of, hey, everything's happy. So this gives me, Control S save, the option to have a second button on my screen that when I hit the submit button, something pops up. I hit the quit button, the application closes. The interesting thing about this is I've now created an action that lets me control quitting. If I want to confirm something, ask you, do you want to save, anything else like that, I can do that before exiting. Or I can just exit. but it shows you a sphere of control. If you get more into actions and events, you can actually control the event when somebody hits the X button to put the same behavior up there as well. It's also an action to be performed, and you can alter that action instead of closing immediately. All right, so that's a little bit about events. We're going to expand more on this once more time after we talk about validation, but hopefully you're starting to get a better feel. Keep practicing this stuff, keep building this stuff, and getting better at this stuff as you go about and learning and building your GUI.